So, Dr. Leung, we heard about IRB. So, what procedures did you go through to get approval from IRB?
Well, you would need to follow the university guideline. There is a committee at the university called Committee for the Protection of Human Subjects, CPHS. This is located at the UH. I think they had meetings in the research offices there at E. You need to look up the deadline. Okay. Now, it's very important when we do research because the deadline to submit of your ILB is set by that committee. If you miss the deadline, then you have to wait for another month. So I will look at the deadline. If the deadline is the 1st of, let's say, September, then I need to finish my proposal and then submit for the ILB review before that time. And it takes about, I would say, I was that lucky. No one is usually get it approved immediately. They usually give you some comments. You have to make revisions. You have to address this concern. As a result, then after you resubmit it, then they reconsider. It takes about 2 months' time to finish.
2 months. So, what are the ethical concerns in your study?
I would very briefly just summarize. There may be about 5 or 6 different concerns. For example, volunteer participation. Okay, that means you cannot coerce the client or the subject to participate in the research. Second is that you need to find out is there any harm to the subject. That's why they are being protected. The subject are being protected. If there are harms, okay, then can you proceed or you cannot proceed? So that will be up to the committee to decide. Sometimes the harm could be minimum. Minimum, that means, for example, you provide clinical counseling, and then the clinical counseling may have some impact on the subjects, okay, may harm the subject. For example, after they have the counseling session, they feel very stressed, okay. So would that a fatal? Would that be something that is critical? So if not critical, that I think that would be okay. But on the other hand, is that if you think there's harm, if there's complaint that I'm uncomfortable, you need to, in your proposal, to identify what resources that you have to support these people. They feel uncomfortable. Okay. For example, you can refer them to CAP, the counseling center, okay, and then they can see the subject. For all, you can refer to an agency. They provide this counseling, and then they can call and then make an appointment to see them. The third thing is that it's very important. You must identify the goals and objectives or the purpose of the study, so the client will understand this is something is worth to participate. Fourth, you must need to tell them how long does it take to finish the study. For example, you ask them to fill a questionnaire. Well, the questionnaire takes 2 hours, okay, to complete. If you don't tell them, they just start filling up, oh, it takes so long, and it's not fair to take my time, okay? And as a result, you might want to inform them upfront. Okay? Now, sometimes people pay them money, token of appreciation. But what is token? What is a token? Token means very small amount of money. So sometimes people give big tokens. Big token is that, well, we give them $200 to participate. Is it appropriate? I would say it's not appropriate because they came here to do the study because of the money, not because of they want to participate in the research. So you have to make a good judgment, not too much, not too little. If the study takes about 2 hours and you compensate them for $5, who want to come to participate in the study? Therefore, you have to be very careful that you think about what is fair to the subjects. Also, you have a consent form for them to sign. That means if they participate in the study, you might want to ask them to have a written consent or sign on a form. Now, I want to tell you, sometimes people are not comfortable to sign anything, okay? So there are another alternative strategies that I use. For example, in conducting a survey, I ask their consent, okay? So in my cover letter, I said, well, if you participate in this study, if you're willing to participate in the study, or you already start on the study, participate in the survey, you give consent to participate. Why I say that? is the fact that people do not want to put their names there. Okay, if you sign consent, you have to put your name, right? And as a result, people can identify who you are. But in a survey, if you participate, you give consent. There's no name, no signing. So that is sometimes acceptable. So you might want to find out alternative strategies how to address on the issue regarding participation. Finally, I would say that you must, in your cover letter, inform the subject where to call when there's a question. Also, if they want to file a complaint, what is the phone number and the office they can file a complaint. Okay, for example, they need to file, if they have a complaint, they go to the university committee to file a complaint. So that is legitimate. There are other issues as well, but I don't have very little time. It only give me 1 minute. I already exceed my time. So maybe in the literature they give you more full details about the human subject issues.
So are there any cultural issues in your study?
Absolutely. There are always, in my experience, cultural issues. Okay, some subjects, for example, they don't understand what is acupuncture because, for example, Americans, not many of them have experience with acupuncture. Okay, and they are very afraid of it. They have no knowledge about it, and therefore they are very skeptical about the intervention. So you have to share with them more information about this technology and what are the myths about this. Okay. On the other hand, is that in other study that I had, there are cultural issues. One study I did with newly migrated immigrant from Mexico. Okay, and they speak Spanish. When I designed my study, and I have an instrument that was translated into Spanish. And then the scale is a 5-point scale. Strongly agree to strongly disagree. Strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. So I thought that's perfectly alright because I have the Spanish speaking student who fill out the questionnaire. They said, wonderful questionnaire, Professor Leung. So when I took it to the Southwest Health Clinic, they are primary immigrant from Mexico. They fill out the questionnaire. They scratch their head. If you agree, you agree. How can you be strongly agree? In Spanish, we don't have strongly agree. You agree, you agree. That makes sense to me. What is strongly agree and agree? You agree, right? So, I make a mistake. I did not consider it as a cultural issue. Even though the people that test the instrument, they speak good Spanish, but they are American Spanish. So Mexican Spanish can be different from American Spanish. The culture is so different. Therefore, you have to pay attention in terms of the culture. Additionally, is that culture, I would like to also expand in terms of language, that it has to be gender sensitive. There's difference between female and male in terms how do they interact with the languages. Okay, so you have to be very careful when you design the instrument. Okay, don't just stay one side. For example, some language always mention about American football, but how many female play American football? Actually, that will be skewed. Okay, so therefore you have to find some activities that are both male and female, or female and male. They are both interested, so that become more appropriate. Additionally, another study I did was on gay and lesbian. Okay, their languages, you have to be very careful. Are you married? Okay, well, that's a very sensitive question when you ask a gay and lesbian person. Okay, therefore you have to be very careful. Plan how you design the language that are potentially sensitive to different minority, gender, gay and lesbian people, elderly, as well as other populations.
That's very informative. Thank you, Dr. Leung.